Hello and welcome to Apropos, a conversation between Clojure programmers, that's us, that you can join in on YouTube. We're going to discuss a few Clojure news items and share our opinions on them. Then we'll jump into a REPL and code some exercises or do some demos. If you're joining us live, feel free to comment in the chat and we'll try to address the questions. So with us on the panel today, we have Ray.
Hi.
We have Mike.
Hello.
Reed.
Hey.
Who is an animated circle, and I am Eric. Hello, everybody.
Cool.
Hello. So, Reed, are you always going to go without a video, Reed, or are you going to just like turn it on?
I have some technical issues with my laptop at present.
Fine. Yeah.
You can just be the animated
Don't
circle.
let that many near your computers.
Damn computers.
I've once had that as a reference, actually, as a joke from one of my old bosses. Very nice guy down the pub, but don't let him near computers. Anyway, yeah. So, Eric, what's happening?
What's happening? Well, we want to remind everyone who's listening that the next show in 2 weeks. I don't know if you noticed this, but we do them regularly. It's every 2 weeks at this time on YouTube on Thursdays. But the next show on the 18th, we're going to have a special guest, Stu Halloway. So get your questions ready so that you can ping him with those questions. And, if you want, you can send us questions early so that we can have them queued up and everything ready to go, ready to fire.
It's mostly going to be around these the new exception.
That's right.
Stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. We're very curious to talk to him about that, like where it came from and stuff like that. Okay. Ray, you had a question. Who cares about core async?
Yeah, well, apparently Reed doesn't. So,
That's true.
So I thought it would be I do. So I thought it would be it's always kind of interesting when we've got differences of opinions, because I don't really care much about component systems and all that kind of stuff. Some people do care about it, obviously. It's a big thing. And some people don't care about core async, but I think it's nice. I think it's a good thing. So,
yeah, it's funny.
Interesting.
It was like maybe 4 or 5 shows ago where all of us on the panel were like, yeah, I've never even used the component system.
What the hell is that? Just a second.
Not me.
No, it's Amazon Echo. I've got this thing. Hold on.
It's a nice little...
Did somebody say like, Alexa, play some music?
It's alive.
Oh, we're messing with Ray from here on out.
Oh, God.
I really have no idea what that is. It's never happened before. I have this thing, this Amazon Dot for work. I've been playing with it this week. It's been off, and I don't know what's happened.
It felt neglected. It wanted some attention.
I think it's aggression at core async makes it sing a happy song.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah, what I was saying was a few episodes back, we all said, yeah, I don't use component systems. And it was interesting because the audience was like, really? I thought everyone did that. And I thought I was the only one who didn't use it. So it's one of those cases of like, I guess if you don't use it, you're just silent about it. And no one knows about it. No one hears about all the people who don't use it. But I like core async.
I find like once you get beyond a certain level of complexity, it makes it easier or even possible to reason about things, right? I mean, if things are very simple, if you have a simple thing with a callback, sure, you could just use a callback.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to like coordinate some sequence of actions that involves, say, like 5 things or more, it's like core async makes it easier.
Especially in the browser, where, I mean, you don't have any other kind of, good concurrency stuff.
Right. I think that that's kind of the fundamental problem for me is that's just not the world I play in. So it's just kind of, Java's futures and threading is good enough. So I've just never really had a reason to reach for it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have like all the queues down in there and pretty good primitives for.
Yeah, they're actually extremely high quality and they're really freaking fast too. So just it's good enough.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all the stuff that you can do with core async, where you're like starting up 10 threads, and it's like you don't really want to do that. You probably want an executor service, and make it official.
Right. Have a thread pool, have a lifetime, have a scheduling plan.
Exactly. But man, in the browser, I've done stuff that I don't think I could have ever done without it. Like no amount of promises and callbacks and async await could have coordinated the complex timings that I was doing in the browser.
One experience I had was doing stuff with reframe, and I was already using core async in there, but then I tried to get rid of it, if you will, and switched to just using reframe's model of asynchronous computation. And for me, I started to lose track of where things were. It was like a pinball machine, things bouncing around inside there. Whereas my previous core async constructs were
just like a one loop. It's like one piece of code. Yeah. It totally is like that.
And reframe has some sort of flow thing that I had used, and that kind of got it back to Clojure. But that was maybe a lack of familiarity on my part. But I found it difficult to get back to where the good place that I was with core async, where. And I'm not an expert core async user. I'm practically a naive user of it, and I just there's so much stuff in there that I don't even touch.
Yeah. Me too. All the mixing and stuff, I never do any of that. The tapping and
the halting.
Has anybody here seen Clojure 110 Alpha's new taps feature?
No, what is it?
Yeah.
There's a new couple tools in Clojure that are called taps. They're ways that you can, I assume they're very much like core async's taps. It's ways that you can register handlers that can get called synchronously, and you can kind of insert spying machinery on the fly. It's pretty useful with the programmable REPL tools, among some other new stuff.
So what it's is a general purpose thing? Like it's a framework for making hooks? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's kind of the goal here. Very data-oriented hooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
As opposed to using like var introspection to go like monkey patch stuff and kind of hack a hook in there.
Did you encounter this, Ray, when you were doing REPtiLe with PREPL? Did you run into that?
Yeah, the PREPL has this tap thing. Okay. I haven't exploited it yet, so I know it's there, but it's something which I will get around to, but I haven't got it yet. But it would be. I think when you're like in the middle of a long evaluation, it would be quite nice to be able to tap into that on the server side, and then potentially kill things after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I actually have a taps usage in my. I think Ray and I are duplicating a lot of work here between the Stacks REPL I built and Ray's interactive web REPL. I suppose I could share my screen. Kind of show some of this off, but I've got a little programmable doc test runner. So you can have a live server that runs your tests and renders all your markdown, and that kind of gives you a REPL embedded with the artifact in your documentation. And that's all based on using PREPL to introspect and capture like input and output and return results as returned by the PREPL. That's all hook stuff.
So is this tap the thing? No, this is different. Never mind. Sorry.
There's an add tap API and
I'm trying to
register functions that will get called.
And it's a lot like the validators in the Clojure transactions API in terms of they get called blockingly in the same thread that did whatever you're trying to do. They're not like a send off pool or something that happens elsewhere.
Yeah, well, I'll have to have a chat with you outside of the outside of this session then to see what your use case was.
Sure, happy to go over that. Good.
Yeah,
maybe we can even do a taps demo next time if we can get a really new Clojure working in the REPL.
For what it's worth, that stuff is actually in ClojureScript, because ClojureScript kind of like has its own weird release cycle, right? It's a little bit ahead of Clojure.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll all get this in the real Clojure pretty soon.
Here we go. I think I got this.
Oh, can show it.
Share the other window. Yeah. So this is the new taps code. Is this visible to everybody?
Yeah,
I see it,
yeah.
So there's a tap set that's just an atom of a bunch of tap identifiers, and you have this blocking queue. And it looks like what happens here is you just throw a set on the tap, and when
You did just add functions.
and then you just call this tap pipe or a tap carrot. I don't know what you want to call that. That ships off your value to the tap queue.
Oh, and it just runs through every function one at a time?
I think so. And then, so let's see, stacks. So this stacks is a little hacked up copy of PREPL that's just a little bit, I don't know, more Pascal type-ier about what it returns. It lets you spy on, so here's an example. So you have these taps for like, your out, how you're going to print it out. And so the tricky bit is I wanted to be able to associate output with single input forms, so that you have to track like the form number, the form ID, and if you have return or like something gets thrown, that all happens. And it also has to throw back the bindings. So this is one thing I added is I actually capture the final bindings at the end of your REPL eval session and return those to the tap by calling the out tap, so that you can re-enter the same REPL state again if you want to with another set of evaluation forms.
So is it fair to summarize that you're using the taps to basically create a REPL on top of PREPL?
Yeah.
And using the taps to kind of like control outputs and...
Yeah, that's exactly what this does. Okay. And then, where is it? Reader, doc test, sessions. The sessions is the one.
Okay.
So what sessions does is you take a bunch of pairs. So the idea is you take a REPL session, you can parse it down to input-output, like nominal pairs, but you really want to ignore the output. You want to rerun all the inputs and regenerate all the output. And so you do that by just like taking your input string and throwing it over the fence to PREPL, and doing that with this callback, the actual evaluation handler that has the continuation, has the namespace, has the bindings. It says whether you're going to capture bindings, and you go back over the results once you've finished evaluating, generating the input-output pairs that you can then go render somehow. So there's a little bit of just go run the thing, take the evaluated session, and then just spit out results for it. And I'm sorry I don't have an instance of this spun up I can actually demo in, but it does work. So interesting little feature, and I would have had to go like pull in REPL or something else out to go kind of do exactly this, but for the PREPL features, which are actually quite handy.
Cool. So that sounds like an enabling technology to let you build cool new REPL things on top of.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, this was absolutely dead easy.
Right, so you and Ray are the tap experts now.
I'm not, obviously. I've seen it in the code, never used it, so I've got to catch up. Oh my god!
It's interesting.
It's okay. It's pre-alpha. It's not even stable yet. Alpha is it alpha stable? Like, I don't know.
No,
it's interesting that there's only
explicitly not stable, isn't it? That's what Rich said.
Good.
Yeah, I find it interesting that there's only one of them.
One tap.
There's this global tap set.
Yeah,
and
that's
it seems
interesting.
Like it could be its own little concurrency primitive that you could use for multiple things, but maybe it's
and the other thing is the PREPL actually doesn't go through that tap set at all, right? It actually takes a tap function as an input argument and and directly calls that all the time. So you still you get the same spying and it uses the same name, but it doesn't go through any of this tap machinery.
Mm-hmm.
It gets really weird in ClojureScript because you have it in the ClojureScript side and the kind of Clojure half of it as well. So it hasn't really sunk in to me yet how you make use of that. Because ClojureScript REPLs have kind of like a split brain, right? Half of it's in the JavaScript runtime and the other one's in the Java runtime. Well, I'll figure it out, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. So we're going to do some core async in the demo later, the REPL session. So we'll move on. I wanted to talk about something. Deps.edn. I've been really liking it. I have to admit, I was one of the ones who was kind of skeptical.
Tell me more.
When it came out, I didn't understand it, and I thought, why is this coming out now? We already have a dependency management system. We have two, and it's like 98% adoption of Linigan. Like, why are you, coming out with this new thing? But I find that it's such a lightweight thing to create a deps.edn file that I'm splitting up my projects more. So I'm having each one in a different repo, and I can refer to them through files. And it's just really expanding my ability to organize my code, I guess is the right way to put it.
So are you using the local libraries feature?
Right. And so I haven't set it all the way up. My plan is to have something. So this is what I'm developing. I'm making something that's going to run in a cron job on a server that does some like utility stuff for me. And so I want to be able to easily deploy it to that server. And it's just going to run with the CLJ command. But while I'm developing locally, I want to be able to modify the code on the file system and just recompile it in Emacs and not have to worry about the dependencies there. But then when it gets put on the machine, it'll run in a different alias that's using GitHub coordinates. And so that way it'll always have like the master, whatever's pushed up to master.
Yeah.
And so, just the way that you can just easily...
Does it work like that?
You can override...
master.
What's that?
It doesn't track master, does it?
Yeah, I haven't figured it all out.
Master's not a repeatable coordinate. It's like using a Maven version range.
So you have to give it a...
It uses a SHA in the end.
And there's... You have to give it a SHA, but you can give it a branch name or get ref, and you can ask it to resolve refs. So it will go rewrite your deps.edn file for you automatically to replace your ref usage with a SHA, or to insert a SHA that wins over the unresolved ref.
So you can say master, but then it's going to overwrite it with a SHA.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks. That blows that out of the water. I was thinking it would be a cheap way to have easy deployments where I could just deploy all these libraries.
But you can always ask it to do it again. You can ask you can just re-resolve it before the job starts or when the job starts if you do it via the SHA.
Okay, so it doesn't overwrite the master with the SHA. It leaves the master part.
I believe so. So you can re-update your ref resolution, I think.
Okay.
I haven't actually tried using that feature. I think that
I'll have to try
the notion of tracking a branch or a ref in another repo, I guess, is equivalent to tracking a version, but it just smells a bit iffy to me. I'd rather go full monorepo and kind of integration test everything in one go. Always know where I was building stuff from.
Yeah, sure. I understand that.
But it would be nice to have the choice, like if you wanted to just point at master.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the choice, but I think maybe you're right. I should be more conscious of the SHA. Like, okay, I did a release to master. I want to start using that new code. Let me copy the SHA into the deps.edn and then deploy that one.
Yeah.
That might be actually a better workflow. But I still have that fast workflow when it's on the local machine. It can load the current version on the file system. That might even be a branch or something that I'm working on. and I can open up that file in Emacs and just compile it. Like it's not like, oh, this is a different project. You got to do something special. So I don't even have to restart the JVM. So I'm really liking it, and it's making me think of these things like, oh, I wouldn't have even done that because I would have to like deploy some snapshot to Clojars just to be able to download it again in another project. It doesn't make sense.
So at FC, I work in a very not large monorepo. It's a small thing all considered, but multiple modules running under line again. We use line modules to try and coordinate all that, and it mostly works. We run into, but like line modules doesn't solve the problem of not needing snapshots. Unfortunately, line again, even if you tell it to use checkouts, which is what modules runs with under the hood, still has to go resolve, or still tries to go resolve your artifacts from a Maven resolver, even though there's a local instance of it. So we run into this problem all the time of we need to have an artifact with the same name installed so that Maven can go pull it, even though we then go throw something on the local class path that overrides that and gives us source level access to what we're working on. So I did a project in the last couple of weeks where I tried to adopt deps.edn to our repo and get it all working with deps, because realistically we all work with checkouts, and having to have an installed artifact is to complete impediment. I found some interesting stuff doing that. I think I can actually do a bit of a demo here. This is not open source. We're not going to open source. It doesn't work, but I can show you what we got here. Something derived from this might actually get open sourced. So we did.
Can you make the font bigger?
Sure. I did the screen and the font. Sorry, this is my dense code font, not for profile, not for pairing or anything else. Whatever, I'll just we'll save this for another time when I'm better prepared to demo the whole thing. The notion is that I went and hacked we have a vendored copy of deps.edn in this branch of the repo that adds a coordinate type, so you can actually say I want to reference this. The problem that we ran into is the local root dependency type in deps.edn assumes that you have the same, is intended to work with absolute paths. According to Alex, any support for relative paths is purely by accident. And we don't have, and we have a standardized location of like, /opt/funding circle /code or something, where all of our code lives all the time. We can't go dictate that because everybody's their own personalized setup. So we went and added a coordinate type that let you say, go find a directory of this name with respect to the Git repo where like the top deps.edn file lives. So that was one thing we had to go add, and that totally worked. It was very little work to go add that. I think it's like 60 lines of Clojure to add that to deps.edn. The other thing we ran into is that deps.edn has nominal support for doing multiple deps files at once. It actually does do that under the hood if you take the Clojure script apart, but there's not a way that you can go inject more deps files. So if you wanted to have, say, a shared dependency pinning file at the top level of your repo that says, here are all the default versions we're going to use for anything in this repo, there wasn't a way to go do that. So we had to go vendor the Clojure script to get that behavior.
Right, because it already has a thing for merging, right? Like there's already like 3.
It just has the predefined merge of like you either have your global one and the local one, or the global one, the user one, and the local one. There's no way to go like inject more into that. And there was something else you're into. We were seeing 90 seconds to build class paths if you blew the cache away. And it turns out that I took the profiler to deps.edn. It looks like there's some stuff it's doing that's not especially intelligent. That gives you, I think, I got it down to 30 seconds by injecting
like
some
kind of quadratic algorithm.
It looks like what's happening is every time it pulls a Maven coordinate in, it pulls in all the coordinates of its dependencies and re-resolves that coordinate, even if it's previously resolved the coordinate. So if you have a dependency tree where you have lots and lots of shared dependencies, it will potentially re-resolve the same Maven coordinate by, instantiating a Maven, like a connection to the default Maven cache, reparsing your settings XML, which turns out to be hysterically slow, and then like reloading that POM file. And I saw it reload in the same POM file order of dozens of times.
Wow, that's some like C++ build level, like open name file.
I mean, it was pretty easy to go like throw a cache in there and clean that up and get it down to something reasonable. Just did not seem to be behavior that deps had been optimized for or tested against.
Right.
Which was kind of disappointing to find. But I mean, deps worked great. Once you build that initial class path, you can go change the way that deps does caching to make it do like content hashing based caching rather than file timestamp based caching, and then you just like do your class path computation once and you hit the cache every time. It's really kind of glorious. You're down to like the 2 seconds to start the actual Java REPL, or to start your REPL rather than the 7 seconds to go to the line modules dance. And you get source paths all the time rather than having to go through the M2 cache and ring with your M2 is stale or something like that. So hopefully I'm going to get to make something in this space that works and get that out there shortly. But the initial prototype we did had some serious limitations.
Have y'all filed a bug about this 90-second class path?
No, I haven't tried to write up a good description of this regression yet. I've been debating how to do that.
I wonder if there's a good project you could like say, well, if you just include like Apache Commons, which basically includes the rest, or I mean, for that matter, something like Datomic. If you just put Datomic on there,
I have no idea. I mean, deps works fantastically if you have a really shallow dependency tree that doesn't have repeated deps. I think that's probably what it was designed for. I haven't tried to really understand the resolution algorithm to see, is there a reason that it's doing this, or is this just an accident? I'm sure there is a reason. Credit where credit's due to Rich and Alex, but I don't understand it offhand. So, we have a little script called ein, because it's less than line, that tries to wrap up deps and give us like ein REPL, ein test, and kind of go through the deps path, and hopefully something like that gets to come out shortly here once it works.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah. But I agree. I mean, there's some very nice things with deps.edn. Something I discovered today actually was this --init option. Which is,
what is that?
Nice. What that is that allows you to actually run programs before the class path is formed. So what I want to do, for example, is set some environment variables.
Interesting.
So you can just reference a bit of Clojure code, it evaluates it, and then so you can set properties, for instance, and you can have different properties set for different. So then you, in your aliases in your deps.edn, you can have dev or prod.
So you just put a string of Clojure code and it gets evaluated.
No, it's a path to a file actually.
Oh, okay.
It's a path to a file, and that file contains Clojure code.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to evaluate Clojure code, you can use
can't have any
-e.
depths, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just gonna read that file and evaluate the sequences in it. I bet. I don't think it. Well, who knows? Maybe if it has like an NS form, I haven't thought about that. But like, yeah, if you want to evaluate Clojure itself, you can use -e.
Interesting.
Those have been there forever with like the Clojure.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Alex is in the chat asking for a bug report. I'll try and get one together.
Yeah, the 90-second thing.
Yep.
Do we have a link to the chat to the actual YouTube channel? I'm sort of not on it at the moment.
Yeah, I put one in there.
I had to go find Mike's tweet.
Thinking about other stuff that's going on, I was thinking if there's any news in the Clojure and Clojure script compiler world, and it looks like, well, in Clojure, you can kind of see there's this activity going on right now to patch up things for JDK 11.
Yeah.
I haven't been following that. Yeah.
It looks, I think Gotti found some really interesting cases where I think the streams API, this new arities added to this to support the Java 10, Java 11 streams API mess with the way that Clojure does does a method resolution, and actually are breaking some method resolutions or breaking some like compiler method resolution in part because it turns out that JVM does not require that implementations be deterministic about like class order when you use the reflection API. So different people are seeing different classes show up in different orders, which changes like which method wins and can break some stuff. So I don't know but I don't really understand what's going on there, or let alone what the fix is. But I think there's been some interesting chatter in the Clojure dev channel about that of late.
And in the Clojure script. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of something. Yesterday I was coding something up, and it was just some file manipulation stuff. I was like, this has to be solved in Java. So I Googled it, and I got a Stack Overflow, and I started working on the Java. And like, I haven't done Java in a while, like pure Java. But it seems like more and more, a lot of the standard library is using the var args format.
Yeah.
And those can get really awkward when you're working with Clojure. Because you have to, Clojure, I guess, was made before that var arg stuff came out. And so the reflection just doesn't, because the var args is like a syntactic cheat.
Yeah.
Right. It actually passes in an array. The compiler just converts that into array construction, set up the array, and pass that in. So the method looks like it takes, a third argument that's an array.
Yeah.
And so if you don't pass anything to it because you don't have any options as the Clojure programmer, you still have to construct that array. So you have to look up in the Java doc, like, what is the type of this array, and make an empty array of that type. And this can get pretty awkward.
Fucking Scala.
What's that?
Well, that's how it is with Scala, isn't it?
Is it?
Does Scala not support the Java vargs?
No, what I mean is you have to put the type on all of the arguments that you pass over, even though they're just,
Interesting.
Dead.
Looks like Scala's been some stuff around this for a while. Oh man, they have like this _* notation to try and like hint that you are using var args instead. Yikes.
Yeah, it's just something that it's the kind of thing I can figure out. I can read Java docs and I vaguely remember the buzz about var args, but like for a beginner, I just I don't even know where to begin. It's like so many levels of languages you have to learn and understand. Like,
you have to understand the details of the Clojure compiler so you can understand how they interact with the Java implementation of Java.
And how Java was implemented, as they didn't want to change the bytecodes to support var args, so they hacked the syntax. And so, I don't know if there's something that the Clojure compiler could do if that were something that people wanted to support, where it detected that. But it has all sorts of weird problems.
So I think the problem that I think Gotti and Alex have both looked at this. I poked at it some too, years ago, and detecting it is just brutal because you can't. What you have on the other side is an object type, is like a typed array at the end. And it's not always obvious from the Clojure side because we don't usually have
we don't think about the types like that.
Yeah, we don't think about the types like that. And it would be very easy to construct cases where you would reflect to
a different method.
Yeah. Entirely by accident.
Right. That's what was happening to me. I was reflecting to a 2-argument version because I was only passing in 2 arguments. But the 3-argument version is the one with the var arg. right? And so the type, it was just giving me a type error. I guess the resolver that Clojure had was saying, hey, 2 arguments, this one has 2 arguments, but the second argument is the wrong type, so throw an exception. Whereas it should have resolved to the varargs one, but with 0, because the types matched there, but then it would have 0 of the varargs. So,
yeah.
and
Alex
so
says don't use reflective calls.
What's that?
Alex says this is easy, just don't use reflective calls.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Turn reflection off.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, that's an easy, usually like 10 to 100x speed up alone if you just get your hinting right and unroll it by hand.
Yeah,
but
this is not performance critical code for sure. This was like reading a file off the file system. Like no matter how long it takes to do that reflection, that file is going to take longer to read in.
Yeah. That's the thing, though, isn't it?
I think there is some variations on like a call with varargs macro or an interop with varargs macro.
That would be interesting.
But I think those get kind of sticky because you still have to like figure out what the array type is and do the array construction yourself.
Right. You'd have to write a custom resolver that like did the reflection.
Maybe not. I mean, you could certainly just take the class, take the instance type, and make the user plumb that through. But I don't know how much effort is that macro really worth versus how much does it save you?
No, it's not. It doesn't help. It's also APIs I'm unfamiliar with, so I didn't even know there were varargs on there. I was just copying somebody's code who used 0 varargs, so mine had 0 varargs, and I had to go to the Java docs to realize, oh, this thing, I see why it's not working, and why it's giving me a funny error.
Yeah, I've been bitten by the 0 varargs thing before, for sure.
The only other one thing I wanted to mention was the Clojure script news. Currently, Clojure script master is pretty much ready to go. I think there's just one more ticket that David wants to put in to Clojure script
110?
Whatever 110.573, whatever, but so if you desired, you could actually build master yourself and use it. It's pretty much what's probably gonna ship. Another cool thing is, like, I guess we had like an episode or 2 ago, we talked about contributing to the compiler. And so since then, a lot of newbie people came in and contributed for the first time, including Ray.
Some of our panel.
I saw Ray's patches. Congratulations.
Yeah, so after Ray complained about the process, he finally experienced it firsthand. And
it's so awful.
But
Did
now
you
Ray's
manage to wash the Jira off of your hands?
Really rots when you have someone with merge access pulling for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it was very trivial changes, but but the process was not too bad in the end. Yeah, I mean, I've got to say,
you got
all of that, the Jira and the patches, they're fucking annoying, to be honest. But they're a minor part of the actual process. So
just do a few hundred more patches, and then you'll have a right to complain. Then you'll know what you're talking about.
It's true. Yeah. But it's good that people are picking it up, Mike. You're doing a good publicity there with the newbie tickets and getting people on board. So
Yeah, it's been quite a few people who have contributed for the first time now. So that's kind of nice. All the newbie tickets have pretty much been addressed now.
Oh no!
No more left.
It's a one-time thing.
Time to make more newbie tickets.
Yeah.
Just sprinkle some bugs around that people can find.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy to find bugs in Clojure script. If you use it, you'll see something wrong, and you're like, file a ticket.
That's not a great recommendation, though, Mike.
Hey, it is what it is. I'm here to deliver the truth.
It's great for open source contributions. So many bugs.
Full of bugs. Yeah.
But we're using it for mission critical stuff. Don't say that.
Well, fortunately, the core language is solid.
Yeah.
Request accepted.
Yeah.
I remember when there were bugs with, like, if you passed an infinite sequence to apply, that was nice.
The bad old days.
Yeah.
all that stuff works properly now. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
All right, are we ready to go to the REPL?
Think
I
so.
don't know. Is the REPL ready, Ray?
I reset it, so I
Fingers
think
crossed.
I think Eric broke it basically earlier on.
I broke it. I pressed the buttons you
broke it.
gave me.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is that because it's using WebSockets, I can kind of just kill it at the back end and restart it, and you don't need to worry. It will just
Oh, okay.
Ah, very nice.
keep playing. Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm going to read my little spiel so we can get going. All right. So we're actually going to the REPL now. I don't know if I have anything to read about this. We're going to the REPL. To the REPL. Who's got the controls? The little, you pull the statue's head back and you press the button and the bat cave that opens up and you go down the poles and now you're in the REPL. Very fast.
Yeah.
The bat REPL.
The bat REPL. Well, I think Mike just has to click the REPL button and it's good.
Yeah, I've done that, and
okay,
I've confirmed that it's showing in the YouTube.
I see it too.
You see it as well. All right, cool.
Right. So we have a cool thing that we're working on today. It's core async, like I foreshadowed before, and we're going to be implementing a reader that has a timeout. So I've done this before, so I'm kind of going to abstain from working on it because I know exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
But this happened. I use this a lot in tests where you're like, I'm going to test that the right number comes back on this channel. And your test could block forever if your code is wrong because you're just waiting for that last test.
Okay.
So you want to say it's going to come back within 5 seconds or whatever timeout you want. So
I thought it was a different problem altogether when I was chatting with Ray earlier.
Oh, did I misunderstand it?
Well, perhaps I thought that Ray was wanting a like an idle timeout mechanism, but that was what he was describing to me a few days ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it's changed since then. Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to. Hello. Sorry, Reed.
Oh, I just said either or.
Okay. What I was going to say was that obviously the thing is that you can do various things. I think why don't we just do that? Like you can say read something for 10 seconds and then time out. That's the sort of simplest case, isn't it?
So you have a channel, you say read for 10 seconds, and then if you don't get a value before the timeout,
then you give up and
you have some default value or something.
Okay,
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, and then the other thing, the reason why I'm interested in this to some extent is because I was thinking that if we're not typing at the keyboard here, it might be nice to have it reflected in the UI, and the mechanisms for doing that in Reframe are kind of okay, but keeping track of time in Reframe is kind of, I don't know. You'd have to create events that said, okay, something is timed out. You'd have to name those events, and it all gets a bit, it's not very first class anymore because you have to name everything. It's not anonymous. You can't just, have these things happening inside of your code. You have to expose them outside, which is a bit annoying. So
Ray, I think I broke the REPL again.
Did you?
Scroll down in the output.
What is going on? What did you do to it?
I'm really not sure. Should have been completely reasonable.
Mine works.
I think there's some problem with the REPL. There is a bug, so just use the bin and it will clear your screen. Okay.
All right.
The bin.
Everything is still there at the back end, so none of the definitions are wiped out. Okay.
Ray, we would call that a trash can.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Press the trash can button.
See, trying to evaluate this just
chuck
seems
it in the
to hang
bin.
Amusingly.
You need to pet a chuck animation, so you can literally chuck it in the
Chuck
bin.
it in the bin.
Show evaluation times. Maybe spec is too much for whatever your backend is.
So you're trying to generate a sample and it's just stuck?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Interesting.
Okay.
One for the notebook. Throw that right out.
I'll restart it. Hold on.
I mean, it's still working for other things. Just can't spec.
Well, we
You've
gotta
just
get to our
consumed one of the threads.
exercise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's still working. Yeah.
Maybe read is blocked. Like his thread's stuck now.
I think we need a timeout on read.
Yeah, a read timeout.
Okay.
Hey,
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
You get it.
so get no core time.
We had core async in here before. Gonna add the library, right?
The library's already in there. Yeah.
Oh, it's already in
Been
there.
added? Okay.
Yeah, it's already in there.
Okay.
But you
Awesome.
broke it, remember? Yeah.
I broke it.
Yeah, with
Press
the
the
goal
button.
loop that wasn't doing anything. Yeah. No. I mean, you. Yeah. Just,
I know it was me pressing the buttons. It was me.
yeah.
There. Okay. Let's see if this works. No such name. Oh, I gotta require it first, huh?
Yeah.
Require.
That should be in your history, actually. But
Like the alias may not be set up.
Oh man, Ray, that's not even right.
Yeah, Ray's got too many bugs in this thing.
shut up.
No bug testing right now.
We'll get
Can we
there.
do this separately?
It'll be a never-ending stream of bugs.
We're just waiting while Eric gets the example ready to go. Okay, cool. Looks like we have a channel there.
Okay.
I clicked it. I don't see it. I can't scroll up. I gotta hit the
I'm
bin.
seeing the result.
It's below. The last thing I see is this keyword.
Yeah, press the bin. The trash can. You okay?
Bin.
Oh
Clear
my
your
god, this
screen.
is not going well.
Okay. Well, we're getting there. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So who wants to give this a go?
I've made some improvements.
Improvements, and you had some regression. So
Here's-
it's all right.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so
It's awesome.
I don't know
So
async
I've
well
got-
enough to give this a go. So I think Eric, you probably need to take point on this one.
Okay.
Well,
he
let me,
knows.
I've got a little function that I can just like put in there.
Oh, please don't patch it live.
Why not?
Is that a solution? That's cheating.
No, that's not a solution.
Put that away. Why is that in my screen?
Why does
Okay,
that?
you know.
I did not type that.
Yeah, you typed that. That was you.
Oh no.
I'm confused now.
You can just blame
Oh,
code on me
no,
now.
Okay, so
everything's
read
gone
for
wrong.
duration.
I'm not seeing what y'all are seeing.
We're looking at the
And Artem's window is a fully formed solution that just appeared out of no. Oh,
Oh.
we're restarting the REPL.
okay.
You should maybe not okay, there we go.
That's only on the YouTube version of it anyway.
Much fumbling with the REPL today. Oh well.
Okay. So do we need to reconnect? Are we in there?
The last thing we had
It'll
was
be
this. We had an async one.
Okay.
Right. I think it's all good.
Okay, let's give it a
Okay.
go.
Right. So what are we doing?
So the problem definition is you want to read, but then block, or you want to have a
You want to
timer.
unblock after a timeout.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's call it.
Does read
read.
fundamentally let you do that, or is it going to inherently
No.
block for like that
Yeah.
thread is
that
sacrificial
take
one, or-
function is going to block forever
okay?
if nothing comes down the channel, which sucks on the double bang one because that one takes up the thread, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's by
Okay.
design. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to block until
a
something
block and
comes.
call,
The
yeah.
thread is just blocked until then. But we can put channel time and let's say a default, something like that. Okay.
Okay.
So typically you do something like this on the channel. Oops, channel. And that would block. There's a thing called alts That's what I would use. So async alts. And now I have to think of the syntax, but you...
This is good. I want to learn this one.
Do something like that where not time. You'd want the timeout. So async timeout for that time.
Okay.
And what it's going to do is return. It'll take from the first channel that has something ready. Okay, so if the channel has something ready, it'll just take from it. But if not, the timeout's going to eventually become ready, and it's going to be chosen. So core async alts. I just want to double check the syntax on here, because there's also one called alt.
Yeah.
One is blocking and one's non-blocking, isn't it?
No, the alt is like a macro that lets you like bind and do it.
Oh, run the function afterward. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So alt is going to return a tuple of the sorry, now I can't remember. It's the value and the channel. Is that right? The value you got and what channel you got.
Value and the channel,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so then you can bind that. Y'all can't see what I'm typing, can you?
I can.
Yeah, we can
okay.
see it, yeah.
Cool. The value and the channel. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And where do I go? And so then if the value is nil, that's what you get from a timeout. So if nil, then you're going to return your default. Otherwise, you're going to return the value. Make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to eval this. Boom. So now I should be able to do a little demo. So let's see. Def C async chan.
Okay, yeah.
Set up our little REPL test. I want to read timeout for on C for 1 second, and otherwise I'm going to return some not found. 1 second. Boom, we got user timeout. But if I call that same thing, but after a little bit, I do put async, put C, some value, doesn't matter. I got true. Weird. Oh, I see. This blocked first. Yes, that's right. This blocked because I'm not in an async mode. So I'll do this in another thread. No, that won't work either.
So why did that fail?
Because it blocked. It blocked for the 1 second before the put happened. If I do it in this order, it should be good. There.
Oh, okay. It's blocking. Yeah. Okay.
Right. I was thinking that they were running asynchronously, but they're not.
Okay.
So there you have it. That's how I would do it. Just something simple like that. Now, you don't even need the C, do you?
Yeah.
You could even do like an if.
Yeah, you could have when let or if let.
Yeah, you could do like first instead of destructuring. And you have if sum.
So all of this is kind of like a blocking way of doing it, right? Like none of this would work in Clojure script. Is that true?
Right. You just change everything to use the single
bang.
Bang, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Should be the same semantics.
Yeah.
So the timeout will still occur even if the thing occurs before that. So the timeout will still trigger after 1 second. It'll just happen.
And nothing's listening on that.
Yeah, it'd be like a tree in the forest.
Exactly.
Interesting.
That no one cares about.
That's right.
So
go ahead.
I was just thinking how Ray would use something like this. He would, in these terminals where people are typing, you would automatically just start reading and timing out. And
yeah, I don't know if this would help with what he wanted to do. What he wanted to do was, like, I guess you want to like.
I want to reset the timer.
Yeah.
Every time you get a character.
So if you do something like this, let's say
Reset.
async go loop.
yeah, like you want some sort of thing to prod it and say.
Right there. Right, so you do async timeout. Let's say it's
so
1 second.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what you do is you do an alts. So you're going to do that same pattern. VC async alts. A single one. And you're going to read from your channel, whatever that is. Channel, and also from your timeout. And no. If you say it's nil, the same test, then you're done. You're gonna do your like no activity, right? Otherwise, you can do whatever you're gonna do with the value. Do stuff. And then you're gonna recurse. So you're gonna do stuff, and you're gonna recur with a new one. Same thing. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Now, another thing you could do, this is the cool thing about core async, is it opens up so many possibilities, is you could make this go loop that it just is like, so you get this channel that has keystrokes. I think that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And the keystrokes are just, I guess, characters or character codes or something. But you could inject into that stream a message that says, I haven't heard anything in a while, right? So you just have one channel to listen to, right? And you have. So let me show what I mean.
Like some sentinel type values, you mean?
Right. So it would probably wrap up the key code that's like keystroke, 25, keystroke 26.
Yeah, that's. And you want to sort of
do you like that
suppress
though, or do you like just having multiple channels and alts? Because I think that seems cleaner to me.
Yeah, it depends on the interface. I mean, if you're thinking of this like events, right? A single event stream about what the user is doing seems kind of clean to me, right?
Yeah, I think there are definite advantages to the single event stream, for all that it also brings some risk with it. I think,
but alts lets you combine them too, right?
Yeah.
So it would be something like.
But you need to have the alts anyway, because time is a thing, So you have to read from two channels anyway, don't you?
Right, but it's just where you do it, I guess, is the question. So you have, so this is your keystroke channel, and it's going to have it's going to do a channel. Let's just call it C. It's just going to return that. But in the meantime, it's going to make a go loop. It has that timeout. Timeout. And then same pattern. Me see. Async alts. Keystroke channel. Doorbell.
And it's about to be
It's
doorbell
time.
time for me too.
Yeah. Almost done. And so then if it's nil, then you're going to put onto your C your value that says, no activity.
Okay, yeah.
And then if it's otherwise, you're going to just put the V. And there's probably a function that does this, like a map. Like this looks like a transducer, I actually did most of my core async work before transducers came out. So this is how I think of it. But this now that I look at it, it looks like a transducer. It's just a loop. And then then you're going to recur. I mean, the other thing is you don't have to recur until the keystrokes start coming in again, right? So you could do here, separate thing, where you do a new one where you're just waiting on the keystrokes. So let's see, async. All right, things are starting to lag on me here. Too many streams. There we go. And then you're going to put that. Oh, wait, I shouldn't call it C. B. B. And then you're going to recur. Maybe even you put something like sync, put C, new activity, and just to say, hey, I'm starting to hear from this keyboard again.
Yeah, it would be nice, for instance, so that like all these white spaces on the screen at the moment, we could get rid of them.
Oh yeah,
we need
right,
a feature that this is.
We could actually expand the amount of space you've got. For your
Right.
As an editor, you can increase the amount of space you've got because there's split pane.
Yeah, is it already too small?
But it's too big. The form is too big for the shared screen.
Yeah.
I'll close mine there. Maybe that'll make more room.
Is there some way you can make it bigger?
Feature requests.
Whose computer is this on?
It's on a back-end computer somewhere in the cloud.
No, I mean the monitor.
Oh, this is on mine. Yeah.
Is there any way you could expand it, or like at least scroll through it? Scroll to the bottom.
See, as soon as you type, though, it starts scrolling back to the top.
Well, I'm done. The answer
Okay.
is there.
So the basic pattern is each time a character comes through, you kind of toss it from one channel to the other.
Right. Take it off of the channel,
and
put it on.
around and
Right.
start a new timeout.
That's right. And if the timeout happens, then we just wait on that channel, on the keystroke channel. And we can even inject a new message that says, hey, make it big again, right? New activity. And, just put the value and start again.
And this is cool. It kind of, at the higher level, it feels like a function that wraps a channel and gives you a new one that has this new kind of timeout behavior built into it. Maybe that's why you were speaking to transducers. You could perhaps bake this into something cool.
Yeah, if you did a stateful transducer, maybe where the timeout was the state, the current timeout. I'm not sure if it would work. I don't use transducers that much. But yeah, I did stuff like this where it was like sort of like a pipeline. Right? You'd have all these things that were transforming your channel. And they would just wrap, and out the other end, you're getting what you want. Like, for instance, if someone does a bunch of keystrokes really fast, maybe you just send the whole string, you know, instead of one at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference here is the you don't really care what the keystrokes are. You know, it's irrelevant what the value is. You just want to make sure that it's something. You know, and the only point of that loop is just to reset the timer.
Right. That's right.
And that's a big difference between the first case and this case. Is that in the first case we were just timing out after a certain amount of period, after a certain amount of time, but here we're saying it's inactivity on that channel that is causing the timeout, and it's constantly being reset, which is nice.
Right. And I wonder how it performs. Probably okay, right? Like,
yeah.
You got all these set timeouts like in the air. Every time you type a key, there's a new one. But all it's doing is a little putting one value on a channel, closing the channel actually.
I doubt any of us can type fast enough to take down a browser with too many waiting timeouts.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll try next week, though.
I mean, my second or third program was actually a cookie clicker bot that just played one of those stupid games. So I clicking the mouse really, really fast. So who knows?
I mean, another thing you could do, I think we kind of alluded to this, is like wrap it up like this. There we go. And you'd have to do the same here. And, you know, it just gives you more context instead of like having to figure out again whether this is a no activity or some keystroke number. I mean, and the other thing is maybe your keystrokes, are your keystrokes in a channel right now, Ray?
No, they're not. No.
Is it just?
But it's easy. It's just using reframes, so it would be quite easy to pop them into a channel based upon an event. You know. Yeah.
I mean, it's also like there's a little JavaScript trick where you just keep resetting the timeout. Because when you do a set timeout, it returns an ID for that timeout. And so every time you get a keystroke, you just do like on key press, on key down or something. Then you just keep resetting the timeout.
Well,
and then that timeout could fire an event. Yeah,
I mean, the idea is that that kind of happens already. It's you want it broadcast. That's the thing. It's not the user. It's not the user at the keyboard that matters. It's the consumer on the network that matters. You see what I mean? Because that's the keystrokes that you're typing are going to a server, then they're going out to everyone else, and it's the receiver side.
Oh, who's deciding this one doesn't need to be shown anymore?
Yeah. So like the thing that's on YouTube now, that observer, that's what needs to change so that we can see more of your code, for example, or whoever's typing.
Right.
But this is good. Yeah. I'll copy
the stuff I love doing. You can't do this in JavaScript. You can't. You can't make a little loop that just listening and modifying events and.
Yeah, they have a bunch of like backend observer RX type things, but it's nothing like as complicated as this.
Yeah, so that whole like RX stuff in Java is actually cool because it's like the channels in core.async. The problem that they don't have is the go loops. You need the go macro that transforms your code into continuation passing style. Otherwise, you're still in callback hell.
Yeah.
You don't have this ability to say like, wait for these two. And if this like, there's no like okay, you can do stuff where you're modifying values on a channel in RX JavaScript. Like you make a thing that is a new channel that has transformed values. The problem is trying to like make a decision based on what values are coming in from two channels, right? You're like, timeout channel or this channel? Which one happened first? I want to now do a different behavior based on that. I don't think you can do that. And I don't think they know what they're missing either.
No.
Yeah, I guess you're arguing that this got to a level of complexity that would be hard to do without core async.
Yeah.
It's just mind-bending if you don't have that level of abstraction available to you.
All right, folks, we're over time.
Yeah.
Sorry to take it long myself. That was
All right.
my fault.
It's been
Everybody,
fun.
That's good. Yeah.
Hit subscribe, and then also hit the little bell, because then you will be notified when we go live. So do it.
Don't hit the trash can button.
Don't hit the trash. Hit the thumbs up, the share, all the buttons except for the thumbs down one.
Yeah.
Just think about it. You won't have to wait for me or Mike to tweet.
Right.
Very good. Until next time, folks.
See you next time with Stu. Stu's going to be here next time.
Indeed.
Right,
With Stu.
Yeah.
Have to be on good behavior, all.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.